Hi everybody, welcome back to Hidden Oaks Homestead. This is Nicole and today I'm gonna bake some bread. It's the weekend, so I have a little bit of time. For any of you who have baked bread before, you know it's a time-consuming duty, but it's fun and the bread tastes fantastic. So I will show you today a recipe that I've been doing for a while, with a little bit of customization here and there depending on what ingredients I have on hand. But the basic recipe is asking only for water, yeast, flour, and a little bit of salt for development and for flavor. So I will show you what I do today. We're going to be using sunflower seeds today to work into the dough as well. And I will share the recipe down below in the description, so you will have it there, and let me know if you have any questions. So what we're using today is a little bit of bread flour that I have left over, along with some sunflower seed flour that I brought back from Germany. So I have to use it up because, well, I'm not going to ship that home to the States. We have water, ta-da, okay, very simple, and then some salt and yeast. That's all we need today, and that's all we need to make the bread and start it off today. So as a first step, you want to warm up your water so that the yeast dissolves easier in it, and you need to give it some time to raise. Give it some time to bubble up. So about 10 to 15 minutes or so, and then it will be ready for you to add your flour and your other ingredients to it, and then give it some time to raise and develop from there. So if you have baked bread before, you know it's a little bit of a process. You need some patience and some time in between, which works great for me on the weekend because I can start the dough out, I can let it develop and sit for a little bit and rise up while I do my other weekend chores, you know, the fun things like cleaning and ironing. And I can move on from there and go to the next step. And so we're going to start with the water and the yeast, and let it sit for a little bit and go on from there. So what we're going to do first is add our water. For this recipe, we're using 1 1/4 cup, and we want it to be at least lukewarm to give the yeast some chance to dissolve. We're going to add yeast, 2 teaspoons, and then we will let it dissolve. You don't have to stir it, it will do it. It will mix up and start reacting regardless, but well, I just like to stir it, so here you go. After a few minutes, you will start seeing it bubble up, and once it starts doing that, we know it is where it needs to be to start adding some additional ingredients to it. So it's been about 5 minutes, and it's nicely reacting and bubbling up. This is exactly what we're looking for. As you can see, it's building a nice texture in this right here, these bubbles. You see those? Does it? No, never mind. There we go. With these bubbles, this is really what you're looking for in regards to texture, because it's going to add those air pockets into your bread, which you will want. So we're going to give it about another 5 to 10 minutes, check in, and then we can add our flour. So when it comes to easy bread recipes, you can really do whatever you like with it, depending to what your taste is for the bread. I like to add a little bit of cumin to it, just because I like the taste of it, and obviously it's good for you. So I like to add a little bit to it. Chip is not a huge fan of it, but he'll have to deal with it. He'll be all right. In addition, I like, for flavor, I like to add a little bit of balsamic vinegar. So this is something that I personally like to add because it helps develop a little bit more the dough and the flavor in it. So, you know, when I cut up bread I just love the smell of it, and this gives it a nice little tangy undertone. So it goes great with just some butter and some sliced meat. It's great. I love it. Obviously, if you like to add other flavors, you can always make it a little bit sweeter, maybe with some cinnamon, with a little bit of sugar. Or if you prefer just a simple white bread, just go with some bread flour, your salt, your yeast, your water, and that's your simple bread. That's all you need. So you can make it as simple as you would like. You can make it as complicated as you like. So really it is up to you. Whatever you like to add, whatever flavors you like your bread to be. It's a good simple recipe to follow in general, and add on however you would like. So in addition to the regular ingredients that you have here, so we have our flour, our yeast, our cumin, salt, and sunflower seeds. That's what we're going to be using today. I like to use olive oil. That will help you when it comes to kneading the dough a little bit, gives it a little bit of an extra flavor, as well as some added moisture, which is great. For the baking, gives you a little bit of an extra crust as well, at least in my experience. Now it's time. We can add the flour now and the other ingredients. And today I'm going to add some balsamic vinegar for you. So I basically use a shot glass. Probably not the best means of measuring, but this is all I have right now. So I'm working with what I have. Half a shot glass of balsamic vinegar will do the trick for me today. So we'll add that in today. You can add it straight into the bowl. I'm using a bowl just because I want to avoid making a huge mess when I make my bread. So this is what I'm using to mix everything up, as well as just a simple hand mixer in my hands to mix the dough and then let it sit again from there. You can use whatever tools you have. You can use your hands, a hand mixer, a machine. If you want to use a bread machine, use a bread machine. Whatever works for you, do that. I'm mixing it with my hand mixer because that's what I have, and we'll see what kind of fancy tools I might want once I'm back in Florida. So I'll keep you posted. So I typically just start with the smaller amount of ingredients. I usually add my cumin to mix it in really nicely. I add the salt. So you want to use about maybe half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of salt and mix it in. You know, try out what works for you in regards to flavor. The less salt you use, obviously the less of a flavor enhancer you have with your bread, and just try out what works for you and what tastes best for you. And we add our little flour. So this is a mix of regular bread flour, whole wheat flour, as well as sunflower seeds. So we add that in, and then we can simply start stirring it up with our hand mixer or with the hands, depending on how dirty you like to get. Like I said, I use my hand mixer and it works great. So what we're really looking for is to try to get it to a consistency where it will come off of the walls. So you see there's a couple of dry bits in there. Just mix it up, get in there, get your fingers dirty and knead it like this. You can let out some frustration if the husband got on your nerves or something like that. So you can add that, and then what I like to do is add a little bit of olive oil, because like I said, it adds some additional moisture and you'll be able to clean your hands off better afterwards. So let's do that. Just a little bit is all we need. All right, we'll mix this in. And then guess what we're gonna do after? We wait, we let it sit for minimum an hour to develop and to rise. So it should rise up to probably about twice the size as what it is now. And at that point, what we will do is knead it some more, fold it over, add a little bit of consistency to it, and let it sit again. So in order to keep the temperature in, because it's going to heat up a little bit as it rises, is you want to make sure that you cover it with something. I have hand towels here, so that's what I'm using. Again, like I said, you don't need any specific cloth or anything that you want to cover it up with. It's really up to you and what you have at hand. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. So we're gonna cover it up and let it sit for a little bit. Okay folks, part 2. So we added our ingredients, we gave it some time to rise. So it's about twice the size that it was, and it's time to knead it a little bit. Knead it, fold it over, you know, give it some consistency, and then we're going to let it rest again. So after we added the initial ingredients, I let it rest for about an hour, hour and a half. And you can check in every now and then, see if it's gotten a good rise going. You don't want to let it sit too long, because once it's risen up, if you let it sit for too long, it will collapse again. So we don't want that to happen. So just check in every now and then. Try to leave the cover on as much as possible to keep the heat in. And then you can keep working on it. So we're ready to go. We're gonna uncover it, take it out, and do some kneading and folding. And then after that, we will let it sit again for about an hour and rest and rise. And then it's time to put it in the oven. So we've got a little bit of olive oil. Just spread it out, make a nice mess in your kitchen. And we'll pull the dough out and knead it for a little bit. I typically just like to fold it over a couple of times to build the gluten up and add some texture to it. So just do that a couple of times. Again, like I said, I'm not schooled in this. I never went to school for this. This is just how I do it. Add your touch to it as you would like. Get your fingers dirty. So pull, fold it over, pull, fold it over, pull, fold it over. And what you don't want to happen is you don't want it to tear, because it will mess up the structure of the gluten. So just keep pulling and folding, pulling, folding about 4 or 5 times. All right, here we go. And it's time to let it rest. Okay, so here we are. We are stage 3, meaning we can now bake. So everything is gonna go into the oven. What I use is basically a pan, a Dutch oven, I guess you can call it. It's a ceramic pot. So I like to have a good crispy crust. So I preheat that pan in the oven so that it's nice and hot. The bread goes into it. You keep, or well, I keep the lid on it for the first 20 minutes of baking. To get it nice and hot in there. Keep the steam in the pot, which will make it nice and crispy. And then for the second half of the baking, the other 20 minutes, I take the lid off so that it can brown up a little bit. I like it nice, brown and crispy. Now, if you want a little bit of a softer crust, just bake it without a lid on it. That way it doesn't crisp up, basically, for you. So you can do that as well. I prefer the crust, so I put the lid on it first and then take it off to brown it up a little bit. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put it in the pan, load it up, and then but we will cut a good piece of bread later. I'm looking forward to it. "20 minutes of baking." Okay. It's hot. Ta-da! All right, so you have a little bit of a crust going right now. Okay, it's still soft. So now what we want to do is we want to brown it up and crust it up. So into the oven again for another 20 to 30 minutes. Let's see how brown we can get it. All right, stage 3 is complete. We browned it up, it's nice and crispy, and this is how it looks like when it comes out of the oven. Check it out! And it smells amazing! Now, you want to bake the bread about 40 minutes. If you want it a little bit more brown and a little bit more crispy like I like it, keep it in the oven a little bit longer, it won't hurt. So this loaf was in there roughly about 50 minutes. So the first 20 minutes with a lid on and the other 30 minutes without. And now it's ready. So what you can do to make sure that it's baked all the way through, typically bread, once it's done, sounds very, very hollow. So we're gonna test that out really quick. Okay, here we go. So here it is, right? You hear this? That's how you want it to sound like. It's done, and we can eat it in a little bit. We're gonna let it cool down a little bit on the rack, and we'll cut it and show you how it looks like on the inside. All right, y'all, here we go. Let's cut it. Check this out. Ooh. You see the steam? Can you smell it? It smells amazing. Thanks for following along. I hope you enjoyed it. Try it out, try out the recipe and let me know what you think. If you have any other ideas on adding other ingredients or what we could do with it, let me know. I'll be happy to try it as well. So drop some comments, let me know what you think, let me know how yours turned out, and happy baking. Thanks for coming along, thanks for watching us. If you haven't yet, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you in the next video.